first question I want to ask you about kind of how you manage a team or your thoughts on it is kind of, you have a team, they got objectives and goals, and then you have, your team that has an outside work life. So how do you work and kind of manage creating a good team culture that balances, work and productivity, but also employee satisfaction?
Okay. So I think the way I approach that is by ensuring everybody on the team knows that I'm aware of and respectful of their lives outside of work. Try to acknowledge that fact regularly. I have my own life outside of work. That's why we're here, is to support our lives outside of work, for 99.9% of employees anyway. So I basically trust folks to be professional, to meet their commitments, to do their work within whatever confines of time their life presents them. So if somebody has a doctor's appointment, they have to care for their kid, or something with their parents, or a life event, purchasing a house, whatever, those are important things that are really, frankly, more important than work in most cases. So let folks schedule around them, let folks take their own way, and I think that it builds sort of a sense of positivity and respect on the team, that everybody feels respected, everybody knows that their needs are met. Does that begin to address the question?
Yeah, so employing that employee satisfaction portion with the work and productivity side of things. So
now, and it would become a different situation, I guess, if we started having underperformance, if we started missing commitments, then questions might get asked. What are you doing with your time? Do we need more resources? Is it just a resource challenge, or is it you're just out doing too many other things? But fortunately, we're able to shoulder our load. We met our commitments. We hit our dates. The service level agreements are all, aligned with what we're delivering. So it makes it very easy to continue to be supportive of those things.
Okay. Awesome. And then kind of going off that, so how would you approach a situation, or I'll have you, someone isn't performing, like you kind of touched on a little bit, but kind of go more into depth on how, you approach that situation to make sure you understand it, and then also you can, resolve it and, improve the performance.
Okay. So I think first step for me is hearing the concern, and then doing a little bit of analysis myself, digging in, checking email histories, looking at response times in Bid Manager, doing just a little bit of data analysis to make sure there really is an issue before I go to somebody with, fly off the handle. Somebody called, said they're unhappy, immediately go to the person. Well, that could be a them problem, not an us problem. So anyway, try to get my head around it. If I feel there is a real issue, I just like to communicate it basically immediately. Keep conversations small, keep them frequent, rather than hearing issues and building up a large case file on somebody and then coming to them 6 months later with here's 20 things that need improved. I think it's a lot more to the point to just sit down and talk in a non-confrontational sort of way, but here's the situation, here's what the observations are, and here's why it's not aligned with what we need to be doing. Number one, what is your thoughts on it? I'd like to hear your feedback, and then how do you think we can move forward together to a better place? I have some ideas, like to hear your ideas, mutually agree on them, and then probably have some sort of a follow-up, agree on let's check back. If it's an ongoing issue, check back at regular cadence to measure progress to make sure you're improving. Or if it's just a single issue, it may just be a discussion and you close the books on it. But a little fact-finding, prove out that it really is a concern, and then just address it head-on in not a big way. Don't make it more than it needs to be.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. Obviously, it's to change behavior. It's not to build a case file and get them fired. It's easier when your team's doing a job and everyone's happy. So, definitely agree with that. So, changing gears a little bit. So, when you're interviewing someone, and you've interviewed many people for this team, what do you look for, like, in potential employees? Obviously you want to have some of the technical expertise, but maybe if they don't have that, where do you look at? And what qualities you see in a person to kind of maybe supplement that, or overcome maybe some technical gaps they have.
Okay. Job skills aligned with the role is great. Don't always have that, but look for folks with a desire to learn and excitement for seeing and doing new things, proven track record of being able to overcome challenges. Those are all very good traits. Folks that work well in a team environment, folks that are willing to operate in gray gray area, quite well. We don't have black and white rules on everything. It's all just sort of made up as we go. Those are the main things I would look for. So I didn't have direct job experience, but flexibility and not a need to always be right. Some folks really have to always have the right answer, be the right answer, and that's just not realistic. So folks that are open to feedback and open to having discussions, open to seeing other people's perspectives, those are the type of things that really just make a good team member in general.
Okay, awesome. So as you've been a leader, so you've been in this role for almost 5 years, you're going to go to a different role where you're going to also be a manager.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you look at yourself as a leader and look at weaknesses you may have, and how do you try to identify them with an open mind?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you work on them? Do you set goals for yourself? Do you work on outside resources, or do you try to supplement your team with skills that maybe you don't particularly have, so you can challenge yourself in that way and learn from the team members?
So moving to my new team, I'm going to be managing folks that in a role that I used to do, right? So the job I used to have, used to be very good at it. Now I've been doing something else for 5 years. When I come back, I'm not going to be the expert. They're the experts. So number one is I just need to learn and get experiences from them. I was thinking about how I would explain it to them. It's almost like I was a runner, and then I had, for 5 years, rode a bicycle. So you're still in good shape. You still have strong legs and lungs, but you're not a runner right now. You're a bicycle rider, so you need to establish some training. You need to get your legs back. So I have already a thought that I want to have almost daily quick catch-up sessions with everybody on my team, look at whatever their most recent negotiation was, have them talk me through their approach and their mindset, what was the commercial challenges, the situations that we're dealing with, why did we price it the way we did, and just use that to help get me spun back up so I'm speaking the right language and looking at things from the right approach. So that's more tactical, real job stuff. Leadership type things, obviously there's seasoned leaders all around that I can use as mentors and bounce questions off of. As far as looking within myself, I've looked into what my leadership style is. I would probably categorize it as affiliative style. So, I see myself as part of the team, not, a boss and
a pawn structure.
Doers.
You are the king, and here are my directives, and go forth and conquer.
I like to keep it more, more integrated, be part of the team, be part of the solution, be able to help pick up and do the work when the situation requires. It creates a strong bond between team members, I think, and I think we see that on our team. But one of the challenges or one of the weaknesses is that it can make you a little bit blind to performance issues, because everybody's picking up the slack for each other and watching each other's back. So if somebody begins to underperform, it's kind of easy for that to just sort of slide under the radar because everybody else is picking up the load and everything seems to be okay on the surface. So that's one of the things I'm challenging myself with, is how do I monitor, quote log that shows service level agreements, output, how do I look for trends, like to identify if somebody's beginning to maybe struggle, and address it with one of those more direct and immediate in the moment kind of conversations to try to have just a better understanding of what's going on.
Okay, awesome. So what approaches do you take to identify a potential leader, or someone say like train them, gonna go into like, hey, you've got the skills, let's apply for this job, you don't have to be in this job for long, making sure your team members are growing and learning as the day goes on and as they kind of grow in their careers. So how do you identify that and encourage your team to kind of pursue those opportunities?
Okay, so the easiest way to identify potential for leadership is when somebody raises their hand and says they want to step up. That makes my job very easy because they've self-identified. And then, if nobody's doing that, then it's looking at the needs in the team. What is the leadership void that exists, and who has the right kind of skills or the right mindset or approach to step in and do that. So do we need a lead DSC in the team right now with training promoted? Not necessarily. I mean, he's still here. We're still okay. Would I like to have a lead DSC again? Yes. So then it's like, who would that be? Is it going to be you? You're very smart, well-educated, engineering background, doing well in your role. Also probably not going to be here for a tremendous amount of time. Not trying to kick you out, by the way. But, you know, just the reality of the situation is you're going to do some more good work for us, and you're going to find your next step, and you're going to be moving on. So may or may not make sense for somebody, you know, in the short runway to plug into a lead role, which I see more as a longer term type thing. So it's just looking at the mix of folks on the team, what their timelines look like, what their strengths, what their ceiling is. You know, not everybody has the same set of abilities. You know, we do the same job more or less, but some of us have different strengths and weaknesses. So looking for somebody that can really operate in that higher technical space. And again, we're just fortunate right now to not necessarily need one. It's more of a luxury, and it's a promotional path for somebody on the team that, you know, gives them a chance to grow their career and stay here if that's what they desire to do.
Okay, awesome. It's more of a open-ended question, but like, what does success mean to you?
Success to me. To me, being successful is being, I guess, my needs are met, so I'm comfortable outside of work. I can do all the things that I want to do. I have the time and the space to do them with the people I want to do, and I work in a role where I am challenged, but my hard work, you know, results in something. It actually has some sort of tangible output, some meaning. You know, if any of those things are missing, I think it's not really success. You know, you could be doing great at work, but if you don't have the time to engage with family and friends and loved ones and whatnot outside of work, I don't know, that's really successful. I mean, you're doing work and you're making money, but the quality of life may not be there. Or you could come to work and do a lot of things, but if it doesn't really mean anything to anybody, or if you're just making reports that sit in a folder and nobody looks at, you know, it's nice that you're making a check, but it doesn't feel very successful. So some blend of those things is what success is to me.
Okay, awesome. So last question we'll do here is what are your biggest strengths as a leader, and how do you leverage them to be successful in your job, and then maybe outside of work as well?
Okay, I think my biggest strength is, well, not my biggest strength, but some strengths are willingness to hear and accept other perspectives, to actively seek them out when necessary and to accept them when they're offered, to be able to aggregate that and develop a compromise solution. I don't feel like I need to be right. I don't feel like I always need to be the one talking. So that's a strength. And I think just respect for human beings and respect for people is a strength of mine. Let me mute this so it doesn't keep dinging for the remainder of our session here. But yeah, respectful for humans, treat people the way you want to be treated, I think is a strength of mine. If you treat people well, they're going to treat you well. If you work hard for people, they're going to work hard for you. That's made my role very easy because nobody comes around and has beef with me, and everybody wants to do well, and the entire team is being quite successful and high executing, high functioning. So I think those are the strengths that I have. Weaknesses, I'm not as decisive as some. I want to hear perspectives. I don't like to just make a decision unilaterally and blast through with it. There are times that I have to do that, and I'm getting more confident and comfortable doing that, but I still question at times. I'd like to hear from somebody else. I'd like to get, if this decision is going to impact others, I want their feedback. So it's a good thing, but too much of it can become a bad thing. So.
Yeah,